How much do you care about your homeland? Do you feel as if you are one with it? Do you fully support the blood is linked to the soil mentality? While even if you do, I would be surprised if it was even close to what a certain group of Dragoneers feel. For there is a group to the east that is in reality linked to their land, and will go to any lengths to protect it. I speak of the Guardians of the Forest, the Thorn Weavers, a very mystical order that have been secluded and shut off from the world for most of its history, far, far in their forest to the east. Little is known about what happens there, nor even what it is truly like, for the Thorn Weavers protect their land zealously. It is rare that anyone is even allowed to be close to the forests, and the few that are never speak of it in order to protect the locals. See, the Thorn Weavers are of a unique race of people known as the Nassians. Their features are slender and pointed. This is most notable in their ears, but the most extraordinary thing about them is their lifespan, for they can live for almost hundreds of years, and that's just the normal Nassians. In the more extreme examples is to their protectors, the Thornweavers. But in order for one to become a Thornweaver, they must first undergo a trial, known as the blooming ritual. This is something that happens at a very young age. The exact details are not known. What is that this alters their body physically. Once the ritual is complete, parts of their body, sometimes multiple ones like limbs or maybe even the torso, will become wooden, and the growing of some form of antlers is also quite common, as well as other flora-based changes, truly making them one with the wildlife. This change completely rearranges their biology, to the point where you could almost class them as a different race of being entirely. These changes might be internal as well, I suspect, and since they all have unique aspects to them, it can be hard to say anything for certain in this regard. For example, I once saw one that had mushrooms growing off his back, and another that had a beard that was entirely made of moss. Truly, they will all have something different about them. I suspect that it is this that allows them to harness the powers that they are so famous for. See, some people are capable of harnessing elemental powers. The Valkyrians, for example, can harness the power of the storms and lightning, while in the same regard, the Thornweavers are able to harness the power of nature, truly as if they were extensions of the forest, because in reality they are. They can control wildlife, making plants grow and flourish. Growing vines and thorns is a good example of this, for this can be used as a tactical advantage, the vines to grab and the thorns to pierce. But they can also do more trivial things, such as growing basic crops and helping withered plant life. Truly though, it is up to every Thornweaver to think of how they wish to help the forest and their people. For you see, not all Thornweavers are warriors. In fact, I would say most of them do more mundane things for their people and the forest. From what I have heard, some may serve as just farmers, or maybe even a cook, helping their people to not have to work. In many ways, the Thornweavers are akin to the workers of the Nassian people. This does not solely mean the warriors. Those are just the more famous versions of them, because those are the only ones foreigners get to meet. But I would be amiss if I did not talk about the thing that sets them apart from everything else. The thing that actually makes them Dragoneers. Their dragons, the Vine Drakes. See, their connection is far more than any other, because they are actually the same entity, and I don't mean that in a sentimental bonded way, I mean they are in proof one and the same. This happens during the blooming ritual. The child Nassian and a Vine Drake hatchling are bonded and become one entity. Their minds merge and their bodies both change and become more wooden. It is, in a way, them becoming a hive mind with two bodies. It's not really that one overrides the other, they truly do merge and become one, or maybe they both die and a new one is born. It's really hard to say which is which. What is fully known, however, is just how much they both adapt to their environment. See, they do not only start to look more like each other, a taller and stronger Nassian, for example, will have a Vine Drake to match, but they will also fit their job too. A Thornweaver blacksmith might have much larger and thicker wooden arms, while the dragon part of them will have a much larger breath capacity, as well as hotter breath to help with the flames of the forge. This also means that when I'm referring to a Thornweaver, I'm in reality referring to the two of them, the rider and the dragon, not just the rider, since from their point of view there's not really any distinction. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them even talk in a third-person-like perspective, although the few I have met didn't do that, they mostly just referred to each other normally. They also acted like the rider was the one in control, but that might just be because they were talking to another humanoid individual. I wouldn't be surprised if the dragon takes over more when they're in combat. But combat is a massive risk for them, more so than any other dragoneer. For with the two bodies being linked and sharing one mind, if one dies, they both do. Regardless of whether it is the rider or the dragon, if one of them is to fall, the other will die as well. It is why they rarely separate unless they truly need to. It's actually quite unknown how common they are within their home forest. But outside of their lands, they are close to non-existent, because the only ones that actually leave their lands are rogue or outcasts. They are never allowed to return. The Nasian people are extreme isolationists. In many ways, they are inward perfectionists. So if a Thornweaver does wish to help the outside world, they will not be allowed to return. If you have ever seen a Thornweaver further west than the Neodor Range, then they are almost certainly an outcast. Perhaps this is not the case if you are in the lands of Valjordan, as their forest does stretch all the way out there, if only slightly. A scouting party going that far is possible, if very rare. The only times that does happen is when there is a great threat from within the forest that stretches all the way there as well. But from what I have seen of them, many of them truly do have bleeding hearts. During times of disaster or calamity, I would not be surprised if the number of outcasted Thornweavers goes up, as many would like to help those affected, healing and caring for the sick, as well as replacing and helping the lost wildlife. Those outcasted might also suffer from some culture shock, as they are told nothing of the outside world, and rely on the very few merchants that are allowed into their land to learn anything. So many of them might not even be aware of the idea of cultural differences, or be surprised when different places have different moral values. Some people might think that they're even open to being manipulated for this reason, and I would not be surprised if a handful have even loyally joined another kingdom because of this, though this is extraordinarily rare, for helping the wildlife is always their priority. But do not bank on them all being nice and caring as I have described, for they are outcasted for reasons other than desertion. There is a chance that one that you see has committed a great crime and has been outcasted because of that. They are still some of the most caring people you shall ever meet, but do not instantly think that they are innocent and helpful. I do feel as if the number of outcasts has grown of recent. Perhaps an event of some sort has happened within their own civilization, or something else of recent has changed. I wouldn't know for sure, and I'll definitely have to ask one the next time I get a chance to. I am, however, glad to see more of them. They have a certain caring nature about them. While it's not peaceful, it is certainly reassuring. Truly a people in connection with nature, to the point where they are actually a part of it. Although the number of them of recent that are now outside of their home forest does bring into question whether it is truly that forest alone that they are linked with, or nature in general, as their power seems no weaker even when they are far from it. If you ask me, the Thornweavers should be the wardens of all of nature, regardless of form and location. Now, I am not one to dictate one's culture and beliefs, but they could do far much more good should they interact with the world at large. For life can be found everywhere, not just in the lush woodland, and all of it needs a guardian. Thank you for listening to my tales. I am the Ashspawn. feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. But, till next we meet, fellow traveller, have a good day.